Welcome in to a Tuesday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, live, driven, and powered here by Go Chevrolet, live from SEC Media Days inside of our Atlanta-based hotel here inside the CNN Omni Center, right attached to the College Football Hall of Fame, where we saw the SEC Media Day coverage get going yesterday with Brian Kelly and LSU. We recapped that yesterday. We'll continue to give a little bit of reaction to yesterday with LSU, and Coach Brian Kelly had a chance to listen in on Coach Lane Kiffin yesterday and a couple of his players that came through, including wide receiver Jonathan Mingo's expecting a big season from their quarterback position. We talked about Jackson Dart, the transfer in from USC, was talking a little bit to Mingo yesterday, their wide receiver from Ole Miss, expecting some big things coming from Lane Kiffin's offense this season. Remember, daily, we're brought to you by Go Chevrolet. Our friends are always online at GEAUX.Chevrolet.com. Go Chevrolet's got a couple of locations, including one in Baton Rouge, where you can pick up used cars, just like our boy Lloyd did a couple of weeks back as he shopped with Nick Richard and Lee Carney and the crew over at Go Express Auto Sales. That's on Florida Boulevard in Sherwood Forest. And, of course, if you're looking for a brand new car, stop in and see them over there at Go Chevrolet in LaPlace, Louisiana. Metropolitan Health Group brings you our phone line each and every day. Phone line been a little vacant here over the last couple of days and will continue to be up until Thursday until we make it back into the studio. A lot of our morning hits will be setting up the day and kind of reacting. Yesterday, as we tried to find a spot and a home for our show down on the main floor, too many areas really where there's no streaming allowed, which the SEC pretty smart in the way that they kind of set this thing up, and the spots that they are allowed in, not too comfortable, not too not as comfortable on the eyes. It would be a tough setup, and the Wi-Fi, and you know what I mean, technology, bro. Next time we'll travel with an engineer, or next time we'll just be on Radio Row. But it is great to be here on day two. Compliments of all of the supporters of the show. It's great to be here on this Tuesday, and it is Saban Day, as Nick Saban will take to the podium at 9:05 a.m. this morning, as he will be traveling with a couple of thoroughbreds. Linebacker Will Anderson, who's potentially going to be the number one pick in the NFL draft coming up in the spring. Defensive back Jordan Battle, who is a leader for the Crimson Tide. And, of course, quarterback and Heisman Trophy winner, reigning Heisman Trophy Award winner, Bryce Young will be here early on this morning, 9:05. Alabama will be inside of the College Football Hall of Fame, which you know what that means, man. The Bama faithful have been lined up since like 5 o'clock this morning, and these people are as wacky as you will ever find in college football. I love the passion of college football. How can you not love the pageantry of the sport? You got to love the tradition of everything that is involved with college football. But Alabama's fan base takes it to a whole new level, and I'm talking about just the bottom 1% of the Tide fan base. They are so
special
much
breed.
worse. It is a special breed, man. And look, by no means, it is very much a glass house. It is a glass house throwing rocks from SEC fan base to SEC fan base. But as you stand on the sidelines and have a glimpse of all of them at once, Alabama is in a league of their own. It is the absolute I just don't even know how to. It's so depressing more than anything to see them when you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning here at the hotel, and there's about 12 to 15 of them out there with painted faces, head to toe Tide gear, obesely overweight.
Roll Tide, brother.
You mean the Tide ain't
not a
winning
lot
it
of
this
teeth
year?
in the head. The worst are the ones that show up with the kids and the family. Like they've woken the kids up
This
at
is
like
Christmas
5
Day.
o'clock in the morning to
got
get
bed hair.
them their jersey on.
Go run over to old Uncle Nick and
it's
get
a-
an autograph.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, they don't even use the kids as pawns. I mean, the adults are the ones that are, like slobbering and mouth breathing, waiting to get their shirt signed by Saban. As they come through this morning, we'll have some pictures for you and some videos.
We gonna get number 18, Nick, or what?
Yeah, I mean it is another level of fandom, and it's much worse when it's in Birmingham. Obviously, with the campus right down the road. So it has been worse in years past. But Atlanta's a huge city. I didn't know that Atlanta. I mean, inner city Atlanta has 8 million people here. As the days goes on, Atlanta's stock just continues to plummet for the Jordy Culotta show. Oh, it's unbelievable, man.
The freaks come out at night.
So Alabama's going to get it going here at 9:05 this morning. Can't wait to go and check out and hear what Saban has to say. Obviously, with the questions that you were hearing yesterday being answered, or asked to guys like Lane Kiffin and Eli Drinkowitz and Brian Kelly, you can see the temperature of the week is very much going to be centered around NIL discussion, transfer portal, off seasons, back and forth. And I thought, really Greg Sankey yesterday alluded to that a little bit. He also was able to beat his chest a little bit to show the dominance of the SEC. Sankey feeling himself a little bit yesterday on the podium, but how could you not be, right? I mean, in a world that he has fastly become, it feels like, the second most powerful person in sports behind Roger Goodell, or at least he has this type of reputation to him where everybody is waiting to see what the SEC is going to do, what he is going to say, and what the next move is going to be for the Southeastern Conference. He mentioned yesterday it is a luxurious spot to be sitting in this place, and with all of those eyeballs and interest and intrigue with people looking at the conference and the leadership, Sankey said, "Look, we're comfortable where we are. We'll continue to monitor and do what is at the best interest of the league. But all in all, it seems like they're in a really comfortable spot right now after hearing the news of the University of Southern California and UCLA joining the Big Ten. Talks were moving, it seemed like, here. And yesterday, Pete Thamel was here, and he's kind of the one that was breaking the story and talking about it, where the Big 12 and the Pac-12 were talking about joining leagues together. Now, when I went to bed, it looked like that was imminent, like it was going to happen. When I woke up, it seems as if the talks have now been neutered. It looks like they've ended those talks. So there'll be much more discussion about that all throughout the media today, as everybody is gathered here in Atlanta talking college football and talking about what the future is going to be. And we will react to that coming up here on the show before we get out of here at 9 a.m. Remember, daily, we're brought to you by GoFlow IV, our friends over at GoFlow, GEAUX, flowiv.com. Remember, they have a promo code over there, so if you want to ask them about the Jordy Culotta Show or mention the Jordy Culotta Show when you call and ask to set your appointment. Remember, they do take walk-ins, but they recommend that you make an appointment. Easiest way to do it is just by logging online. GEAUX, flowiv.com. That is GoFlowIV.com. Baton Rouge's premier vitamin infusion, giving you a IV vitamin infusion with you're looking for nutrients, energy, if you're looking to right yourself as far as your mental health goes, and if you're looking to catch up on some sleep, GoFlow IV can help you out. GEAUX, flowiv.com. Mention the Jordy Culotta Show. You'll save 15% when you enter on the first time. Real quick, to put a cap on LSU, for those of you who did not maybe catch yesterday's recap, or if you were just kind of curious about what yesterday was like for LSU, I thought LSU kind of went through the day without hitting any speed bumps, and really just from a representation standpoint, it felt very. I just felt very confident in delivery. I mentioned this yesterday, and Jacques and I were talking about it last night. Remember to catch our recaps on WAFB's Facebook page from 7 to 8 o'clock Central Time each and every day, kind of recapping what went on at Media Day and really starting to kind of preview the days ahead. But I thought LSU, really for being the leadoff hitter at this event, really kind of set the tone and the pace for the rest to kind of come in and have a good week. And like I said yesterday, 3 people immediately came up to a couple of us who were standing around after Brian Kelly was finished in the main room, when he stood up there for about 24 minutes answering questions and kind of giving a preview on LSU. And it was like kind of like T-Bob and I and people that cover LSU, people that recognize around the room that, we're kind of the people that are covering. We had 3 people walk up to this. Now, they were in the same group, but they all represented different markets. And they all made comments to the effect of, how's it feel for LSU's coach not to be a joke or not to be the butt of jokes? And I'm not trying to point back and laugh at what LSU has been represented by, but that's been the feeling here for so long, whether it was, waiting on Les Miles to tell you some goofy story about a vacation, or whether it was Ed Ogeron, just kind of babbling about something that, people were waiting to make fun of his accent or his voice or whatever it may be. Nobody was really ever taking LSU seriously on the podium. That changed yesterday. And I think it's just by the approach of Brian Kelly. It's not like he went up there and was acting in any sort of way to change that feeling around LSU. That's just what LSU hired. They hired a professional. They hired a guy that understands the importance of representing the brand as a business, in which it is. I mean, it's a Fortune 500 company, LSU football. It's $100 million operation annually. Look at the amount of people that they have brought in, that they employ, from nutrition center to wait staff to shadow staffers to on the field coaches. It is a mega operation. So the head coach needs to serve almost as its chief executive officer, its CEO. And yesterday, Brian Kelly had a CEO feel to him when he was walking around the room, when he was standing at the podium, when he was answering questions, when he was giving you his vision, when he was selling you on what LSU football is in 2022 and moving forward. And the reaction to other people in the conference who cover other schools in different markets was, how's it feel to have a guy? And more people talked about, our friend Jake Crane, who's walking around here, and he's got his crew, and I believe he did a segment on it yesterday. He and I were talking about it. It should be the biggest fear in college football when LSU's got some structure to it. I mean, that was kind of Crane's approach of, LSU now moving forward under Kelly. That's the feeling that people get around here. I mean, you could see while he was talking, kind of people were kind of bobbing their head, kind of moving around, like looking like, damn, LSU's got a guy. LSU's got someone who's approaching this as a business, I mean, massage your strengths every day, improve your weaknesses, and, trim the fat and make yourself as efficient and lean as possible and go out and win football games. And I mean, it is an operation now that is led by true leadership, or at least that's the feel of it. And Brian Kelly's resume and track record speak for itself. So, I mean, it's not as if he's selling anything that you're wondering is going to be there. Everybody understands who Kelly is, and seeing him represent LSU was a scary scenario for a lot of people outside of the market, or it was an intriguing scenario for many people who were covering LSU, because it feels like now they have somebody who can consistently lay this thing out every single year and have LSU playing at a championship level. And when you just kind of spit out loud that they've won 3 national championships in the last 20 years under 3 different head coaches, they've gone to the game another time on top of that and played for another one. If you can get somebody in here who can consistently lay this thing out where it gets to a point where it's not rebuilding, it's reloading, I mean, you can feel it around the conference. People know that if LSU is LSU over the last decade plus, in which they have proven they can be, and now you've got a guy like Kelly leading the operation, people should watch out. And, from just the Q&A standpoint, things that stood out to me, obviously his comments on NIL. I think that was something early on. As soon as he opened it up for question and answer, I believe the first question off the top came from Ron Higgins, asking Kelly about how he felt like he measured up in NIL. How does he feel like LSU was keeping up with the pace as far as NIL was concerned? And Kelly said and was quoted, what we are doing relative to NIL is as competitive as anybody else. I don't feel like we are being outbid by anybody. I don't think that that's the place of NIL anyways. I don't feel hamstrung by that. So whether or not LSU is trying to play catch up to the league, you hear the message of what the head coach is selling to the public, right? Which is very soothing, I think, for people within, the fan base that are worried about recruiting and worried about the future. And look, as somebody who covers the program, I have been somebody who has been publicly speaking that I'm worried about LSU in this space. And it was good to hear yesterday the head coach speak on that and say, look, he feels that they're competitive and that they can keep up and they're not hamstrung. I believe that they still have work to do, but from the public statement that Coach Kelly is putting forward, it seems like it's in a better place than I perceive it to be. Anyway, so I thought that answer really stood out. I love the fact that, he hasn't been to venues like the Swamp and Kyle Field and Bryant-Denny Stadium. And, all the places that he looks at on a schedule and says, hey, man, this will be cool to go coach in these venues, in these cities, in these towns, at these schools, traveling in there with, a conference opponent. I think that's something that, even all of us who, listen to this program, follow sports, or are passionate about college football, sometimes you kind of lose. These are still experiences for these people. These are still something that there's a checklist, right, for coaches. And obviously this is something that Brian Kelly has always wanted to do within the sport, and now he's got the opportunity to do it at 60 years old and a 10-year contract that's allowing him to really win. Go look, man, you got all the resources you need. You need a nutrition center. You need a nutritionist. You need more personnel in the wait staff. You need more personnel in the shadow staff. Whatever you need, you have access to. And you've also got a recruiting ground that's as fertile as anywhere that you can find in the country. So I thought, all in all, Brian Kelly's representation of LSU yesterday, if nothing else, was a breath of fresh air, right? And not just coming from somebody who covers LSU, you could feel it from the other people around the league walking up to, people who cover LSU every single day and say, wow, looks like LSU got it right.
Well, and it didn't seem like some of the did it seem like some of the national media was a little taken aback by that? They tried to slide in with treating the LSU head coach the way that they've treated them all along. Like they tried to make jokes, they tried to do this. And Brian Kelly, sure, he took the punches, but you could tell the tenor was not the same as doing, oh, Edo, do your best, what's your favorite gumbo, all of that kind of stuff. Like they tried to play into what Brian Kelly, I guess some of the mistakes he made kind of early on with the accent or whatever and the dancing. Like they tried to play all of that up, and Brian Kelly was like, look, I'll roll with whatever you guys are saying, but this isn't really going to play for very much longer. Like that's not really, he's changed the culture or the way that LSU was viewed publicly, I felt like yesterday.
Without question. And look, the same could be said for the players and the way they represented LSU. I thought B.J. Ojulari coming home to Atlanta was a great story for him. You could tell that was something that he was really he was really giddy about that. He was excited to be back home and having an opportunity to do this. Just 2 years removed from his high school graduating class, going into his third year of college, really his money year, it feels like. Jack Besh obviously knew the weight of the moment. He understood that he's the first sophomore wide receiver to represent LSU at this event since Odell Beckham Jr. did it back in 2012. That means something to him. And then Mike Jones Jr., man, just a great guy. Not to say that any, all three of them aren't, but just, he exudes just joy. He's always smiling ear to ear. I caught a piece of a video with him yesterday and was like, man, I'll always remember this, is what he said. It just kind of means something to all of them to be there. So it was really cool to kind of be there along the way and see it. Norma Skok says, Jordy, why are you broadcasting from a Motel 6 instead of the convention center like all the other broadcasters? Well, Norma, we're podcasters, and they're not letting podcasters in on Radio Row. There are some spots down there in the lobby, but it gets a little hairy. It feels more comfortable and an easier setup up here at the we're at the hotel at the Omni Atlanta, which is attached to the College Football Hall of Fame and the event right downstairs. So we're right on top of it. It just kind of gives us an opportunity to be a part of it. And
yeah, it seems like they take Radio Row very literally.
Yes, they do. You have to be dialed out going to some call letters and to a like a radio station.
WNXX, the sound.
Right. Brian Burgess says, looks like all FM could afford was coach seats and a Motel 6. Yeah, that's right, Brian. We're a new company, buddy.
Yeah, super chat us.
And pay for us?
Yeah, super chat us,
right,
BB.
You got all this money, cuz. Buy us first class tickets.
Even Cam Smith
was a 5-star hotel.
You saw Cam Smith flying coach yesterday.
Man, my guy, Burgess.
Out of the clouds.
Big timer.
Sorry about Gidget.
Found a way in between those TPS reports and all those meetings you let us know about all day. You can maybe get us a first-class ticket in a 5-star hotel. Get your likes, shares, comments in for this broadcast. We appreciate you sharing that, as that does great work for us. So LSU kind of putting a cap on that. And then Lane Kiffin, man. You could see Lane Kiffin's in a tough spot. I mean, he really is. And his attitude yesterday was, I told you so. You know what I mean? I told you so on this NIL stuff. And I think Kiffin would be pitching a totally different message if he would have gotten the Miami job in the offseason. He would have been pitching a totally different message. If he was at a school like Sarkisian was at Texas, or even Jimbo at Texas A&M, Brian Burgess, Omni's a very nice hotel. Don't start backtracking now, bro.
You said what you said.
Yeah, right. But Kiffin, you can tell, sitting in the middle of Oxford at Ole Miss, where he's still hoping that the relationship game can work in recruiting, and he's got a couple of guys that he can go out and work deals with in NIL to get him on campus. Guys like Zach Evans, who was a 5-star running back a couple of years ago, went to TCU for his first year, kind of considered a problem and a gamble, off the field as far as a take in the program. Those are the type of guys that you have to take at Ole Miss, really kind of to stay relevant. Outside of that, it's going to be tough to pull players, these high-end players in recruiting back to Oxford, Mississippi in an NIL world, and you can feel that from Kiffin. I mean, every room he went in yesterday, and almost it was like it got more intense on the NIL stuff, and finally he just said, look, I told you, you're legalizing cheating. I told you this a couple of years ago, that the boosters in the schools with the most money were the ones that were going to get the players, and I told you so. That's what's happening now. And then he went on more to say, like, what do you want coaches to do? Coaches are making deals with boosters about keeping players. Now the boosters call and saying, what is happening to the player that I'm paying? At what point do you, like Kiffin said, at what point do you give the booster the autonomy to say, hey, you control his playing time? Should we play him or should we play him? You're the one that's paying him. So, he paints a scenario of, NIL really being devastating to his program. Devastating to, as he's selling it to the sport, but he's really looking out for Oxford, Mississippi, and Ole Miss. And I think that was my really kind of launch point on NIL with LSU, because I think LSU, even though they are a heavyweight of the sport and they are recognized as a top 5 school, a top 5 job, a top 5 destination in college football as far as recruits, coaches, program, LSU has that cachet. But in an NIL world where you're competing against schools like Miami, Southern California picked up Tackett Curtis yesterday, the state's top linebacker out of Manny High School. Schools like USC, Miami, who are making themselves relevant once again. Feels like Texas is elbowing up to the table to play in an NIL world, obviously. And then you've got the ones that have been there, the Georgias, the Alabamas, the LSUs. But I felt like in that world, LSU, man, to play keep up, they were really going to have to change their strategy at the way that they were fundraising. Right? As far as these collectives were concerned, that's why it was so good. And it was just good to hear Brian Kelly speak on that yesterday and talking about his comfort level and where they feel they are, kind of at this point of putting all that stuff together. So it's you wonder on how competitive you can be in markets like Baton Rouge and Athens, Georgia, and even Tuscaloosa, Alabama, compared to places like Austin and Coral Gables and Los Angeles and schools in big markets that have big money, and you can see it on Kiffin's face and you can hear it in his voice. They can't keep up.
Well, it seems like if anybody would be excited about legalized cheating, it would be Lane Kiffin.
Right, no doubt about it. But he would much rather be in a market like USC, where he used to be, or even at a school like Alabama, where he was their top assistant, where he understood, like, man, it doesn't look like this place has a lot of money from the outside looking in, but if you're a head coach like Saban, who, can get whatever he wants, money starts to kind of shake off of trees at schools like that. You know what I mean? You go shake a tree over here and you can get $60 million overnight. So, I mean, but at Ole Miss, that's a tough spot.
No doubt. And you could kind of see, even last year, going back before LSU even hired a coach, you could see whether he was joking or not, he was kind of publicly vying for maybe becoming a candidate at LSU, not only because he sees that Ole Miss is probably tapped out to what he's been able to do with it. Like, that's as good as they can get. And then so he sees a job where not only is there more talent, there's probably more money, and he's able to kind of make that leap into, when you say like belly up to the table, that's being with the big dogs if he's able to land at a brand like LSU. And that makes me wonder if he has another 8-9 win year at Ole Miss, does he start kind of looking around the country going, where can I land in an NIL space where I can probably maximize myself a little bit more?
I really kind of got the feeling yesterday in that, he missed the boat on that Miami job.
Yeah.
I think behind the scenes he was really lobbying for that job, and that he really wanted to get there. I just kind of got that feeling. He didn't say anything. He didn't make a remark like that towards it. It just he kept referencing schools like Miami and USC, and it was almost like he was saying out loud, I wish I was at one of those schools. You know what I mean? So I could be competing with Sarkisian, and I could be competing with Kirby Smart and competing with Lincoln Riley and all these guys that feel like he's in that fraternity of young coaches that are at these jobs where they're going to be relevant, moving into the new age of college football here in 2022. And it almost feels like he's almost kind of like handcuffed.
Right. That's like he's tapped.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember, Daily, we're brought to you by Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works. Our friends over at Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works. Easy to call. You can get in touch with them today, as the phone number is simple. It's 225-776-2431, 225-776-2431. You mentioned the Jordy Culotta Show, and you get a 15% discount over there on the bottom line. They're number one and a number two business. They specialize in all works of plumbing. That's industrial, commercial, residential. They can help you today. They've got experienced carpenters and plumbers on staff, which means they can help you with your next industrial or residential remodel of any kind. They cover Greater Baton Rouge to the Gulf Coast every single day. 2 trucks a day in East Baton Rouge Parish. They originate out of Plaquemine, Louisiana, but they have a couple of trucks working the east side of the river each day. Give them a call, 225-776-2431, 225-776-2431. For our friends over at Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works, number one in a number two business over at Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works. Mention the Jordy Culotta Show and save yourself 15% on the bottom line over there at Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works. Big day over here in Atlanta. We'll be covering it all as Nick Saban will be leading it off at 9:05 this morning. He will have 3 players with him, Will Anderson, Bryce Young, and Jordan Battle. Will be the 3 for Saban today. Mississippi State at 1 o'clock. Mike Leach, who last year, Mike Leach was hysterical in this setting as he just kind of walked up to the podium and was like, I don't really know how this works. Anybody got any questions? Like, no opening statement, no kind of like preview to the season. Didn't even like Ogeron, his first year, just like pulled the depth chart out and started reading down the depth chart and gave everybody their 3 deep. He was so uncomfortable. But I mean, it was like, at least he had something that he had to say. I mean, like Leach last year was just like, questions? People were like,
I don't even know what team I coach for.
Got Garrett Nussmeyer, knows daddy.
What's the deal, man? Who do you have on your team? Like, what do you think's going to be this season? What's this season going to be like for you?
I'll run 15
so he'll be
plays.
Here at 1:00. That's always fun. Look, man, you know who I'm really interested to hear from today? And today is Alabama, Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. I can't wait to hear from Shane Beamer.
Yep.
I really can't. I believe that Shane Beamer is going to have a big-time job in the next 5 years of college football. I think he's doing so much good at South Carolina that somebody's going to recognize, like, man, this could be like one of these young, up-and-coming, new-age coaches like we just talked about a couple of minutes ago, but maybe even like a generation younger, right? Where, I mean, he's kind of come up in this. He's cut his teeth in big-time programs with people like Kirby Smart and his dad, of course, Frank Beamer at Virginia Tech. He's got a lot of, high-level college football experience from all levels. And he has done a really bang-up job, in my opinion, over at South Carolina that also feels like kind of one of those Ole Miss schools in today's college football world that it's like, man, where's the relevance of South Carolina? Like, what is the relevancy of South Carolina in 2022 college football? And Beamer somehow has kind of, he's been able to kind of kick that up, whether it was Spencer Rattler transferring in the offseason, which, I think that everybody kind of looks at Spencer Rattler as kind of a almost toxic on a football team. But for a school like South Carolina, when you looked up and saw him land there, I couldn't have been the only one that was like, that's a pretty good pull for South Carolina.
Right, they got to take a shot. If you talk about not being relevant, you get a 5-star quarterback to come in regardless of how. I mean, I think we've all kind of seen him on that show QB1, and we all based our opinions off that. Like, I'm totally off Spencer Rattler, but if you're a young coach that has a chance to get not only a decent player, like I would say he's pretty like he even plays the game a little toxic. He's so back and forth, you don't know what he's going to do, but he's such a name that it at least gives you some sort of relevancy going into the year where you're like, all right, well, they have Spencer Rattler, but something that people are going to talk about. It's not shocking to see he did not travel with the team for SEC Media Days, so that's not somebody you're going to bring.
No way. No, I get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand why you're not bringing him here today, but the fact that you were able to land him,
no doubt,
I think was a pretty. I mean, that was a big get for Shane Beamer in South Carolina. So Beamer's coming in today with an offensive lineman, a wide receiver, and a defensive lineman. So as far as the interest there, look, I mean, I'm not trying to get down in the weeds and hear about what the offensive line rotation is going to be like for the Gamecocks this season, but I would like to hear what Shane Beamer is kind of like his outlook for where he is. Like where is South Carolina in his point of view of college football? And I may not get a complete and honest answer of like, I think we're way behind the heavyweights and, but this is how we compete. But it is interesting to see just kind of where his, where the direction he's taken the program is. And, talking to some people who cover the league and, like I said, I mean, this is the epicenter of college football. You go sit down in the sports bar in the hotel last night and you see everybody, man, all the sports writers, all of the talking heads, all the people that are covering the sport at a high level are in, 500 feet of a square foot space, just kind of hanging out, drinking beers and, talking ball and watching the home run derby.
It was electric last night.
It was, man. I mean, how many home runs do you have to hit to win the damn thing?
100.
I mean, the dude from Seattle, how many home runs? I mean, I think he gets 65 in 2 rounds.
Seager?
Ramirez, Rodriguez,
Yeah,
J-Rod,
Ramirez.
I think he had like 98 total. He almost hit 100 himself, and he still loses.
And he finished second?
Yeah, Juan Soto came back from every round to win. He had a walk-off in every single round.
Man. Soto.
What
a week for Soto.
Oh, yeah. Gets to turn down $440 million and then says, I'm going to go win the home run derby. Like, that will, people aren't going to want me more after that.
So he just like...
The balls.
The nuts
it takes to turn down $435 million. Staring you in the face.
Guaranteed.
The richest contract in Major League Baseball history. 15 years for a young Soto. How old is he? 21? 22?
He's 22.
So does he just find another team, offers him another?
Well, yeah, we were talking.
I mean, it looked like he was swinging a toothpick.
No, he's unbelievable. They said he squats like over 550 pounds. Somebody was interviewing him like, what do you bench and what do you squat? He's like, I bench like 225. And like, what do you squat? It's like over 600. We're like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Jeez.
He's just a young buck. He's got some legs.
I was gonna say, he does have some thick legs.
But him. We were talking about it last night. He's turned down. Mikey was more of in the camp. Like, it wasn't so much he's turning down the money. Obviously, he doesn't want to play for a terrible franchise with the Nationals, who absolutely have been in the gutter after winning the World Series. They got gutted. But it was the years. He said he didn't want to. He could get that probably.
Yeah, 15.
He's like, I'll be 38. I don't want to spend 15 years in DC for a team that I don't really know if we can win here again. But he's just like, I don't.
Much easier to bet on yourself at 21 years old.
Right, and you take a 5-year deal for you could probably get 150 million and then prove it again. He'll be 27.
Probably get 200. But
no doubt, I agree. And that was great entertainment, if nothing else.
Well, speaking of
Pujols,
I was about to say, speaking of 20-year contracts, Pujols was awesome.
He was fantastic, man. I mean, he knocked out the 1 seed. Yeah. Pete Alonso, the back-to-back winner.
That was unreal. And then they had the great moment with when they called like the timeout and all of the players like went around him and like fanned him off. It was like a pretty impromptu thing.
Yeah,
and
that was cool, man.
You could feel the love for Albert the Machine. It was great.
It was, man. Little paid respect to the OG as Pujols yesterday at Dodger Stadium was
beautiful venue.
I mean, he was he was cranking them, bro. I mean, he looked young.
Well, we were kind of bagging on him. We were watching.
Swing is so sweet.
Yeah, he still got it a little bit. We were bagging on him because they're like, I mean, how many do you think he's going to hit? They had an over/under for him. I think it was like 15. We're like, I don't think he's going to come close. Then he gets into overtime and he hits like 18. We're like, we would have lost so much money if we'd have bet against Albert Pujols because the first couple of swings looked terrible, and then he found a little groove.
Hunter Picard, thanks for the bet last night. Had Juan Soto. You're welcome, Hunter. You can see it right there in your top right of your screen, the QR code from our friends over at Caesars Sportsbook. You can make those bets on the All-Star game, the baseball All-Star game coming up tonight. You can also look at a couple of futures. I picked up one yesterday on LSU winning over 7.5 games and Joe Burrow throwing over 3,500 yards. It was kind of a little Burrow LSU magic where you could parlay the two of their seasons side by side and get a little action on LSU's SEC Media Day. They had some LSU action there. Check it out at Caesars Sportsbook.
That's the
promo code FM15. Look at Lloyd.
I was asking
straight to the phone.
I was asking the same
nose
thing.
deep into his technology. How can I get to the app fast enough?
I wish it would just let me log in.
Bet.
He threw for 4,600 yards
so much
last
money
year.
On fines with cussing. I'm about to
but double down.
More to Caesars Sportsbook. Why not, dude?
Why not?
FM15 is the promo code. Hook it up. Who you looking at, Lizzie?
That's what I'm looking for that. That's
yes.
I'd imagine that's a little promo. I'll be able to find it. Because, Burrow threw for 4,600 yards last year. I'm sure that's probably only taking into consideration the regular season. But after what we saw yesterday and kind of the, I guess, public kind of acknowledging what LSU looks like and them being a little bit, I guess, taken aback by how good LSU sounded, not only on the coaches front, but, B.J. Ojulari, Jack Besh, Mike Jones as a stud on the microphone. I feel like people are starting to recognize LSU a little bit more, so I went ahead and dropped another couple shekels on LSU's win total. It's only at 7 right now.
How many futures do you have on LSU?
I think 4.
Too many to count. Steve.
Yeah, I have 3 on the regular season wins, and then 1 just toss it out there, national champions.
Right.
Got to do it every year, just in case.
Why
You
not?
feel like a fool if you didn't.
Did you hear Chris Doering this morning? I don't know if anybody was listening to the SEC Network when they went live. They went live at 6 o'clock your time, 7 o'clock here Eastern. In Atlanta, but Doering was kind of spreading the message in which we were talking a little bit about yesterday with LSU. A lot of people want to hate on LSU coming into this event, right? Then yesterday, people kind of hear Brian Kelly speak, listen to Jack Besh, B.J. Ojulari, and Mike Jones work the rooms, and they're like, oh, man, I think LSU might be a dark horse this season. I'm like, yeah, like a dark horse to do what? Like win 8 or 9 games. I'm telling you, people are starting to buzz around LSU just because of they're really starting to dive into the roster reconstruction they were able to do since January, since Kelly was introduced on the job mid-December, and what they've been able to do in recruiting and putting the roster together through the transfer portal, signing guys from high school, and getting the classes and the numbers up to speed for LSU, even before spring started, to now going into this offseason where, you heard Mike Denbrock say on our show, he feels like the quarterback battle at LSU is the best in the country. They've got really good players where you need to be good. Where college football teams have to be good, LSU is line, wide receiver and playmaker. Now, they need some questions to be answered on the offensive line. But the work that they've done on that offensive line to get to where they are today, I'm telling you, is a minor miracle. And by the way, Brad Davis, LSU offensive line coach, going to be in studio with us Friday morning, 8 a.m. when we're back at the Noodle. And really looking forward to talking to Coach Davis about really getting to this point, right? Getting the numbers back to a place where it feels like you got some competition in the room. And also want to ask him by the standard and really kind of the standard that the young guys have set. Emory Jones, Will Campbell most notably because he had him in the spring, but Emory Jones has made a huge impact, it sounds like, in just his short time. I say short time, but just this summer, getting ready for his first season. A couple of more workouts planned for LSU in the off season. They'll take a week off, and then fall camp set to begin here in Baton Rouge for LSU football. So it is, like we said, when you pull out of this event and you go home and you go back to Baton Rouge and you kind of start to get ready, this is college football season. College football is here, man. When we leave this event, you usually kind of start staring down the scope of getting on the field, starting practices and covering camp and all of what comes with, covering big-time college football. So it'll be interesting to hear from Coach Davis on Friday. Really looking forward to that conversation. And as we said yesterday with Lane Kiffin, LSU, and Eli Drinkowitz of Missouri, we now move into day 2 of SEC Media Days with Alabama, Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. But going back to what I was talking about in the bar with some of the people that were covering the SEC and obviously college football, is that there is a buzz around Shane Beamer that feels like he's going to get or have an opportunity at some point to get one of these big jobs. I think, he is raising a lot of eyebrows and people are really paying attention to the job that he is doing in Columbia, where, he's pulling guys, he's recruiting at a high level, he's got really good energy. Peter Burns was telling me last night he's never seen Shane Beamer, without just this smile on his face, good mood, always in, kind of spreading positive energy. And that, that travels. People like to see that in from a job hiring standpoint. You still got to go out there and execute. You still got to be efficient. You still got to win. You still got to do your job. But he comes with a lot of energy to him that sells well in college football right now.
They nearly killed him last year at the Duke's Mayo Bowl. They knocked him upside the head with that with the water cooler full of mayonnaise. So I'm sure he'll get a question about that. He said it was awful. He got like racked in the back of the head. So I'm glad to see he's okay. But Beamer's still concussed and just living in a daze. Couldn't be happier.
Andrew Messina, hashtag Ask Jordy. Any talk of Texas, Oklahoma joining the SEC before 2025 at SEC Media Days? Yeah, look, both schools have media representation here. We have talked to a couple of people from both Oklahoma and Texas that are at this event, kind of going through what is, just kind of going through today's events. And yesterday, Sankey was asked very early on in the press conference on whether or not there was discussion of both schools joining early, and he said it's not up to him. He said that decision is not up to him. Now, we don't believe that he would have nothing to do with those chats or talks, but Greg Sankey knows that there is contracts in place, there are bylaws that are put in place, there are things that he can comment on and say things publicly that is a very narrow ground that you have to walk as far as what he can and can't say. And from his point of view, he said that there is no discussion at this point for those two teams to join any earlier. And I kind of believe him because I thought that this deal was going to be done, if it was early, like this season. I thought that there would have been stress on it to get it done as soon as possible, and we have not seen that. So maybe it will go for the next couple of years until 2025. But to answer your question, there is a little bit of chat and buzz to it. But as far as any type of action to be expected on it, no, not at this point. Nick Saban is going to take the podium here in 20 minutes So we're going to tap out of here early to 20 minutes in about 20 minutes, so we can go down there and cover Alabama and Saban. We'll do what we did yesterday. We'll come back. There's a bigger break today because of the director of officials serving as one speaker in between Alabama and Mississippi State. Alabama, as we said, is at 9 o'clock this morning, and Mississippi State and Mike Leach do not go off until 1 o'clock. Vanderbilt is going off at 10:30 this morning, but I'm not too sure that anybody's concerned about what Clark Lee, Mike Wright, Anthony Orgy, or Ben Brinshaw have to say coming up for the Vanderbilt Commodores.
Can you go down that list again?
Go through the list again.
Yeah, I mean I'm going Orgy here with ORJI.
Ooh, Orge.
Yeah.
Orge?
Maybe you've been in that hotel. I told you not to get any videos last night, dude.
Emily Gregoire yesterday was on. She was on our ass on pronunciation, so maybe she can help us out on this.
We need a phonetic book.
A question for the judges, please. What is the correct pronunciation?
ORJI.
ORJI.
That's
I'm going Orgy.
That's Orgy.
Yeah, that's Orgy.
I would say that's Orgy. I mean, what would be the? What else would it be?
I don't know.
Orgi?
Orgi?
It's got to be Orgy.
No, man. It's a J. It's not a G.
Oh.
Orgy.
Yeah.
Either way, we know what you're talking about. Either way, I'm in.
Play by Orgy.
Too many men on the field.
Orgy's to the outside, to the inside, to the outside, inside.
Orgy dives in the pile.
What a lick by Orgy.
Illegal contact to the head. Orgy.
Emily, help us out on that. I'm going Orgy. Orgy, final answer.
Yeah, I'm taking Orgy.
Yeah, I'll take Orgy.
But I'm not sure that anybody is concerned about that. The Vanderbilt team that's coming up here at 10:30. So we're going to go down there, cover Alabama at 9 a.m. We'll come back mid-morning and kind of give you we will come back and kind of give you a recap of what was said by Saban, and then kind of set you up for Mike Leach and Mississippi State coming up here at 1 o'clock, as that will be today's lineup. Last school today will be South Carolina, 2:25 this afternoon, and like we said, I'm looking forward to hearing what Shane Beamer has to say for LSU. How about LSU baseball? Another day of the draft. How'd they fare, Lizzie?
Oh, it feels like LSU made out like bandits. That's what a lot of the sentiment around yesterday's draft was, things that needed to happen in terms of who was able to not get drafted. I was reading a little bit that there wasn't the string of high school prospects that went early like it usually is, which boded very well for LSU. We had Roselman on last night. He gets drafted to the Yankees. He's obviously going to go. He was pumped up, man. But
what a great fit.
Yeah, perfect. He was with his family out. I think he was out in Cali, and so he popped in the car for an interview real quick. And I mean, you could see all over his face like I was pumped up, not only for me but just for all the guys that got drafted. But I believe the biggest score was Chase Shores, not going in the draft. He pulled his name on the draft. He's going to come to LSU. 23rd overall ranked player, 5th ranked right-handed pitcher. I mean, 6'8", throws over 98 miles an hour. Kind of a guy that you think you can probably find a role for in year one. So Jay Johnson getting all of the pieces that it felt like he needed to be able to make LSU a contender. And Mikey and J Mitch said it last night. They're like, the way that this thing is lining up, the players that LSU is able to get, and like how their roster's shaking out, it's Omaha or bust. Like there's really no in between.
Yeah.
And so Jay Johnson probably welcomes all that pressure, but the way that he was able to reconstruct the roster in year two after what he did at his first year, able to pull in a Wes Johnson as a pitching coach, all of the moves he gets Tommy Tanks, like people are already forgetting some of the names that he was able to pull. That's going to be, like I said, I was kind of looking at Caesars last night trying to find a future on college baseball. I don't know what they're doing. The season's over. It seems like you get that thing out there. But that's going to be, I mean, that's absolutely whenever the line comes out that I'm going to put a future on LSU to win the whole thing, because, I mean, if you have two former players that have done it before and they're saying, these are the guys that it takes to win a national championship, I'm going to ride with their opinion.
Yeah, no doubt. Remember, Fresh Chef Eats. All meals and bulk items are prepared fresh each week, specifically for each individual order over at Fresh Chef Eats. Fresh produce delivered each week. All proteins are prepared in-house. Sauces, dresses, marinade prepared from scratch in-house. Retail and weekly pre-ordering is available, and it's got the nutritional info on all the items. We tell you about Fresh Chef Eats all the time. We start our day with them every day over at the Noodle. They're all throughout lunch and then through the evenings. Man, they drop off our pre-made meals on Monday. It gets us through the week. If you are looking for a little help to stay on top of your nutrition, if you are a little confused on eating healthy, on how to get there, but you're looking to get yourself into shape for the upcoming into summer and going into fall, let Fresh Chef Eats take care of that for you. FreshChefEats.com. FreshChefEats.com is where you can find them. And they got a storefront out on Airline and can help you out. Fresh Chef Eats. Use the promo code Jordy to save yourself some money over there. But remember, everything is made and prepared fresh each week for you over at Fresh Chef Eats. They're located on Airline Highway at 14111 Airline Highway, and they're online at freshchefeats.com. Fresh Chef Eats, proud supporter here of the Jordy Culotta Show, live here from SEC Media Day, day 2 of our coverage as we roll into Alabama today, this morning, Shane Beamer this afternoon. Those kind of guys, those two programs are bookend to take to today's coverage of SEC Media Days. In fact, Bryce Young and the crew right now are walking down Radio Row and starting to really get ready for the day. So we will wrap up our coverage here shortly as we downstairs and start to go cover with the early arrival of Alabama, Saban, and the crew as they come into this event one more season.
What do you think Gilbo's going to ask Saban?
Where are we eating dinner tonight?
Wait, Jordy, did you see the dude that got his mustard signed by Lane?
Oh no,
he got his mustard.
Tennessee fan?
Yeah, he got his mustard signed by Lane.
What's the story on that?
I mean, I guess it's from...
Did they throw mustard at him?
They were throwing mustard at him.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Mustard on the field.
I feel like, and a golf ball. Do you think Lane will ever be able to shake any of that stuff? Like, no matter what he does it feel like just because everywhere he goes, like, he'll never really be considered for, like, I guess, a perennial Power 5 job just because of you get the circus that comes with Lane Kiffin? Or if he keeps winning, they're just like, I'll have to bet on him. Kind of like Spencer Rattler.
Absolutely. No, I agree there. No, I'm with you. I agree with that. I mean, I think it's
such a tough spot for him to be in.
It's just where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean,
what jobs are open? Like what? I don't know where he would next. Like the next pivot point for him would be. He's kind of stuck at Ole Miss if he doesn't go to the NFL.
I know.
Nothing really.
I know. I think that's why I think that Miami job was. I think that's one he'll probably look back on and be like, "Damn, man." That was a hell of an opportunity gone by.
Did he?
You know, I mean, because they're playing, they want to play. It puts him back into an area that he loves.
That's very obvious.
You've heard him talk about Boca.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I asked him off the air yesterday when we were walking. I was like, "How's Lake Sardis treating you?" And he gave me this look, just like kind of corner-eyed me, just side-eyed me.
I'm glad to be in Atlanta.
You know what I mean? Like,
Magic City.
What's wrong with you, man?
It's Lake Sardis, great. Look at this tan. This tan is fake, by the way, because I don't go to Lake Sardis.
Tan is fake.
Yeah, he looked great, though.
He did. Looked skinny.
He looked fantastic.
Good for him.
He looked skinny. His suit was fitting right.
Yep.
He had a great tan to him.
Did you learn anything about
but he seemed, for as relaxed as he looked, he was very anxious in the fact that I took away that he feels like he's taking on water. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like Ole Miss is just... This is not the place to win in 2022. You know, I mean, it's just right. Yeah, just wondering how do you get back to the party? You know what I mean? How do you get back to the main floor? Because as NIL continues to cloak the sport in different tactics of building a roster, Ole Miss just can't keep up. I mean, they cannot compete with the people around them, their competition. And look, we were critical of LSU in that same from that same point. And as Brian Kelly described yesterday, he feels like they're sitting in a pretty good spot competitively.
Were you
all right, boys, you want to keep it rolling?
No, I just got one
go
more
ahead.
for you. Were you interested? Did you find interesting Brian Kelly's like choice of words around NIL? Whenever the way that he was talking about it, obviously like made it seem like LSU has been competitive in the space. But what word did he use that was like? I'm trying to think of the exact quote, but he said something about NIL, where it was like made it seem very obvious that there's like big money being talked about being thrown around.
Say that one more time.
I'm trying to think the way that Brian Kelly kind of worded his I guess his conversation answer. Around the conversation around NIL and his answer about that. I feel like he used some very specific words that I thought were interesting.
Lloyd, I think that people are nervous on what they can say and what they can't say. Like there's so much angst on talking this.
So a lot of gray area.
Yeah, people are just like I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know what I can and I can't say. Josh Pate had a good segment last night on his show, which we've talked to Pate, and Pate's over here doing good stuff for CBS Sports and 247. But there's a lot of discussion on like some of these NIL deals that were promised and people not paying up.
Ooh.
And, you know, like the schools not coming through with what was promised. And as, you know, I was talking to a couple of people around this stuff. I mean, a lot of this stuff was, you know, like during recruiting, like, I want this. And it was a lot of, yeah, okay, good, got it, good. All right, cool, got it. We'll get you that. You know, and then they show up for fall camp and they've been there now for 6-7 weeks and people are looking around like, yo, when's the money start to come in?
Right.
You know, like these deals that we sign, like when do they start to take shape? I'm ready to start getting paid. And, you know, I think there's a lot of, well, you got to wait till the sea. You know, people are like, oh, hang on now. Hang on now. What's the deal? Like, what's truly the deal? Is this? So, I mean, everything that there were contracts in place to now people are like scrambling and asking, where's the cash?
Yeah.
Where's the promises?
Did I just get fire fested? Like I was promised a lot of different things that I'm not seeing any return on.
Not seeing anything.
Exactly. So,
cheese
I mean,
sandwiches.
dude, this thing is a mess.
No doubt.
It is a mess. I mean, you can hear it from I'm telling you, man, go back and look at Kiffin when he's talking about it. Dude looks like a boxer in the 10th round.
Because I'm trying, because I want to get in the game, but I don't know what I can say to
he's like, man,
make
I
a public
fight,
push.
But I got no energy here. I can't throw a haymaker from here.
He looks dead
inside. It's not going to connect with anybody.
He is.
What's that?
He looks dead inside. Like he looks worn. Like
he does.
As good as his skin looks, and it's skinny. He looks like haggard. He looks tired.
I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, he was walking at like a very slow pace. Did you see the Matthew story that he told?
Yes. Yeah, I saw. That's what I'm saying. He wasn't moving quickly. He wasn't trying to get away from you. He's just like.
No, I mean, he was just like, you know, I mean, even his SID is kind of like in front of him, kind of like, come on.
One lane.
You know, like,
let's go, Lane.
Like, come on, man. We got to get to the next room. He's like kind of like looking at her like, just chill.
He's
Nobody
a senior, senior in high school.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We got no shot. You know what I mean? No, we ain't going to win anything. We're going to be in the middle of the pack for the, you know, until y'all get rid of me.
Yeah, I got you 10 wins. I shouldn't have done it.
The pack.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I don't know about it.
Get me to Miami.
Right.
Can I go to the bar?
Yeah. That's where the money's made for old Lane.
So I'm going down to listen to Saban, boys. Y'all keep it rolling if you want. Otherwise, I'll be checking in before lunch and give you a recap on what was said.
All right, perfect. Yeah, we'll come back when Jordy comes back. Yes, sir.
Make sure you hit that like button, share button, comment button. As we are moving and shaking here today, we'll be sending a lot of content back to you down in Master Control and getting that pumped out on social media and our YouTube page. So make sure you are subscribed. If you have not subscribed yet, hit that subscription button and make sure you hit the bell so you know when we go and start putting out content, which we will be doing here throughout the day. Day 2 of SEC Media Days. Coverage provided by our friends over at Go Chevrolet, GEAUX, Chevrolet.com. Stop and pick up a new car out today in LaPlace and a used car over at Go Express Auto Sales at Florida Boulevard and Sherwood Forest. Day 2 of SEC Media Days rolling on. I'll be back with you at some point this morning before lunch. Have a good morning. Go Chevrolet. See you.
Peace.